The Christian Complete Armor by William Gurnall. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 18. Chapter 24. The saints' arms against Satan's first cavil at his prayers. First, Satan makes the Christian out of love with himself and duty from the sinful infirmities, cleaving to both, thereby to quelch his hope of any favorable reception that his prayer hath found in heaven. What? Thy stammering prayers make music in God's ears? Will the Lord foul his finger with thy besmeared duties? If thou wert a Samuel or Daniel, and couldst claim thy place among those worthies that are renowned for the eminent service they have done God in their generation, then thou mightest hope to have the ear of God. But thou art a puny stripling, a forward child, in whom there is more sin than grace, and dost thou think to be heard? Truly, though this argument weighs little, having no countenance from the tenure of the covenant, whose privileges are not appropriated to a few favorites more eminent in grace than their brethren, but stand open to the whole family, it being a common salvation, and a like precious faith, that all the saints partake of, yet it is the great bugbear with which many of them are scared. A word or two, therefore, to arm thee against it only I must take, for granted that these sinful infirmities are lamented and not encouraged by thee. This granted for thy comfort, know, they are not so offensive to God as to thyself. Thy prayers pass such a refining in Christ's meditation that their ill scent is taken away. Dost thy scruple arise from the sinful failings of thy daily conversation and Christian course? To remove this, observe how the Spirit of God, when he instances in Elias as a person whose prayers were exceedingly prevalent with God, does not describe him by the transcendency of his grace above others, but by his infirmities like unto them. Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not. James 5:17. As if God should say, were I so curious in my scrutiny as you fear, Elias' prayers would have been stopped, for he was not without his infirmities. How many failings do we find in David's unseeming carriage before Achish, for which he was turned out of the king's presence under the notion of a madman. Yet his prayer at that time, when he betrayed so many unbelieving fears, found favor with God. Psalms 34, verse 4. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. Read the title, and you shall find it. A Psalms of David, who changed his behavior before Achish, who drove him away, and he departed. Are they the sinful infirmities which escape thee in the duty of prayer? Canst thou find more in any prayer thou puttest up than were in the disciples for one so short, where they exercise so little faith that Christ calls it no faith? Mark 4:40. Why are ye so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? Yea, they pray to Christ, and chide him at the same breath. Master, carest thou not that we perish? Yet Christ could find serenity hid in their infirmities, and grant their request. It is true he rebuked them, but it is as true that he rebuked the wind also. God's promise for hearing of prayer shall not be made void by these saints' weakness in prayer. Yea, for thy further comfort know that the less power these have to shake or disturb thy spirit in expecting a gracious answer, the more kindly will God take it at thy hand. Abraham, it is said, believed, not considering his own body or the deadness of Sarah's womb, and for this was highly commended, because he thereby did signally glorify the power of God, to which he believed their bodily indisposition should not be an obstacle. Truly, thus it will be highly pleasing to God if thou canst rely, not staggering at thy spiritual indispositions and the deadness of thy heart, which rises up as a great objection in thy thoughts against the success of thy prayer. For by this thou givest Christ both the honor of his death, through which thou hast this free access for thy weak prayers to the throne of grace, and also of his intercession, which clarifies them all from their sinful mixtures. End of chapter 24.